Recognizing the member for Vernon-Monashee.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to begin my response to the Budget 2021 by acknowledging that today I am virtually joining you from the unceded territory of the Okanagan Indian Nations, and I thank them for their stewardship of this land. I thank the staff and Honorable Minister of Finance for their hard work to prepare this budget. Mr. Speaker, before I begin my response, I want to express my gratitude and want to thank the constituents of Vernon-Monashee for doing their part and for their patience to deal with the pandemic and for making many adjustments, including several sacrifices in their lives. I would like to thank and proudly acknowledge once again my incredible and hardworking CAs at our Vernon constituency office, Josh and Emily. Both Emily and Josh continue to work so hard with so much passion to help people of Vernon-Monashee. I am so happy to share that Vernon-Monashee have such a great team working at our office who are well connected to the community and are always eager to go above and beyond to help our constituents. I also like to give kudos to our amazing and hardworking staff at the legislature, including my LA Pavanpreet, for their ongoing support. I express my sincere condolences to the family members who have lost their loved ones to COVID, and including some of our healthcare workers we've lost to COVID and the lives lost to the opioid crisis. No words can describe your pain and sorrow you're going through after your loss. Mr. Speaker, this is no secret that this pandemic disproportionately affected the most vulnerable people by highlighting the inequalities and gaps that exist. Therefore, investing in such services, these investments are so crucial and urgent. This budget is solely focused to invest in these areas, and this is why I'm proudly supporting this budget. I acknowledge and thank our frontline workers, first responders, doctors, nurses, therapists, care aides, healthcare support staff, administrative staff, and professionals who are undertaking the largest vaccine rollout plan in Canada's history for doing such an incredible job. Thank you all for doing such an incredible job, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to our essential workers in retail, trucking, farming, trades, hospitality, small businesses, and many volunteers with non-profit organizations. Also the daycare workers, social workers, and our incredible teachers for continuing your work and dedication during these unprecedented times. I am proudly speaking in favor of the Budget 2021, as this budget addresses helping everyone, including the most vulnerable and marginalized British Columbians, by leaving no one behind. Budget 2021, Mr. Speaker, is also focused on improving vital services like healthcare, mental health, affordable housing, seniors care, safer schools, and focused on economy recovery by creating 85,000 jobs. Economy grows when people have more and equal opportunities with fair wages and better services as people become more productive, when their mental and physical health is taken care of, and when parents have better and affordable, safer childcare. It makes it easier for them to be productive individuals for our economy. Mr. Speaker, it's no secret that cuts and austerity only benefit the few, and it hurts the economy and services as it takes a long time to fix the years-long neglect. Mr. Speaker, I have been hearing frustration from some of the members of the opposition, some saying that why members of the government are being so proud of this budget, and some advise that we need better writers for our speeches. Let me respectfully be clear to my colleagues from the other side of the House. I'm not sure about you, but most of us, including myself, write our own notes, as there is nothing better than the authenticity and a message from the heart. Yes, it is important to get some information from the actual sources like Budget 2021 document in this case, so we can share the right information with people rather than making stuff up to mislead British Columbians. We have every reason to appreciate and be proud for the improvements and additions to the public services. We have witnessed a difference and felt firsthand the results of cuts versus additions to the vital services and its direct impact on people. I'm not sure why members of the opposition are not impressed with us highlighting our government's work, and they don't like when we do the contrast when it's needed. I try not to do too much of contrast to stay more positive. I just question, is this a fear of reminding people why some initiatives are taking longer and how the improvements in services are the steps in the right direction, or some other reason? I don't know. Ironically, many members of the BC Liberal caucus still talk about 90s, which they can if they want to. But yet they get so offended when we talk about 2016 or a few years back. I wonder why, and even many of my constituents also highlighted that during our many conversations. The other frustration some members of the opposition shared that members of the government side blame the BC Liberals government for their failures at many fronts. Mr. Speaker, it's not called blaming. It's a contrast to compare government's priorities and the impact on people. Contrast is very important in order to fill the gaps and to learn from the previous failures when important and vital services like healthcare, mental health, housing, childcare, student housing were not fully supported. In fact, BC Liberals implemented massive cuts and increased the privatization of services in healthcare and especially many nursing homes. I won't go into the details of previous failures as British Columbians are well aware about those times, so I will stay focused on the positive aspects of the budget 2021. I'm not saying that my colleagues on the other side don't care. They sure do, no doubt, as all of us stepped into this very important role to serve the people of our constituencies. And kudos to all my colleagues from both sides of the House for all you do. The only difference is the various parties or governments around the world and in Canada is that they have different priorities and policies, as we have all witnessed in the past. Some governments historically invest in the few interest groups and support privatizing versus adding and improving services. And at the same time, some historically and at present invest in people, focus on marginalized, less fortunate people, and by embracing diversity, inclusion, environment, and they leave no one behind as Budget 2021 clearly focused on these key areas. I'm shocked today hearing one of the headlines I was briefly reading, and I want to point out that unlike the BC Liberals, we, the BC NDP government, believe the public money for services should be spent to help British Columbians, not redirected to election campaigns. Recently, what we're hearing about BC Liberals and the Baldy Hughes Treatment Centre is shocking. The BC Liberals, according to that article, gave our investigation, gave the facility millions in tax dollars. The opposition leader and Kevin Falcon personally delivered the $500,000 check. Then the executive director, a former BC Liberal staffer, forced the residents to volunteer on the campaign of the opposition leader and Kevin Falcon. More details about this can be found online as the Business in Vancouver journalists did their investigation. Well, coming from healthcare background, I have seen the difference and direct impacts of cuts and investments on the patients, seniors, and healthcare staff. Therefore, I welcome this budget, which is investing more in healthcare. I want to congratulate many of my constituents graduating from the CARED course today, as I have received thank you text. And people in my constituency and around are so grateful for our government for giving us an urgent care center in Vernon and MRI. And now people have the faster and quicker access to the diagnostic and medical care. I also thank our BC government for hiring many nurses in mental health and substance use areas, as I have firsthand seen how helpful it has been, and this is a great resource to refer patients to our highly dedicated teams. We're also getting 8 additional treatment beds in Vernon-Monashee at Bill's Place to help people in need. Vernon's overdose prevention, Mr. Speaker, cites saving lives, and there were some media headlines sharing this such a positive story of these investments. Since the opening of this site in Vernon, we had approximately 3,400 visits. Hundreds of visits were consumption related, and many were first-time users needing more information, guidance, and help. Colleen McCavin, Director of Mental Health and Substance Use, shared that we had 30 overdose events since we opened that site. And of those, 29 were managed by the staff at the site. One had to go to the hospital, but luckily no one died. And this is how these investments save many lives. Mr. Speaker, every life saved is a step in the right direction and encourages us to continue these efforts so no one must lose their loved ones to the opioid crisis. We do have much more to do, and therefore I'm reassured that Budget 2021 addressed the mental health and opioid crisis proactively by adding the government making the largest mental health investment in BC's history. Budget 2021 will continue the expansion of mental health and substance use support to better connect people to culturally safe and effective care. $500 million in new funding over the fiscal plan to expand mental health and addiction services. We're also building better network of mental health support for youth by investing $97 million, mental health in schools program, expand numbers on integrated child and youth teams from 5 to 20 team across BC by 2023 and 2024. The additional services support more school and community-based multidisciplinary mental health and substance use services, support and expand the number of Foundry centers, expand the First Nations Health Authority's ability to deliver mental health and addiction services to Indigenous people by investing $14 million. Besides that, 195 new substance use treatment and recovery beds throughout the province to help more people to get on the path to recovery. Mr. Speaker, $61 million to improve access to quality of mental health services, including expanding eating disorder care and better access to suicide prevention services and early psychosis intervention. To address substance use and overdose emergency response, our government have added $330 million over the fiscal plan to provide a full spectrum of substance use treatment and recovery services, including $150 million for opioid treatment. 195 substance use treatment, as I mentioned, in the communities throughout the province will help more people to get on a path to recovery. One of my constituent and small business owner Cal shared her thoughts after the recent investment, and I quote, having lost a sibling to drugs, I truly appreciate the efforts made by the NDP government. Thank you for sharing. I watched this on TV with a smile, end quote. Cal shared this under one of my posts that I shared regarding the mental health initiatives previous to this budget as well. Under childcare, Mr. Speaker, Budget 2021 also doubles the childcare spaces with improved wages for childcare providers. Currently, more than 36,000 families in BC have the access to $10 a day childcare. Our government's commitment to expand childcare and early learning to create jobs, stimulate the economy, and make sure children can have the best possible start in life is much appreciated effort by many parents I talk to regularly. As I previously also mentioned, the nurturing care and investment in early years of a child, it leaves a lasting impact, Mr. Speaker, and positive impact on child's life. This also enhances their mental health from early on. Investing in childcare is investing in BC's future. There is no doubt about that. Our government's announcement of opening new childcare centers in Vernon and Coldstream is going to help many parents in Vernon-Monashee. Mr. Speaker, this budget also focuses on economic well-being and support for local businesses and individuals, families. Not only that, students across the province have told us that finding affordable housing on campus was a huge challenge. So I'm excited to share that our government is spending over $66 million for 376 new student housing beds at the Okanagan College. And this includes 216 beds at Kelowna campus and 100 beds at Vernon campus, 60 beds at Salmon campus. This means an expansion of student housing in Kelowna and the first ever student housing project in Vernon and Salmon. This investment will benefit generations of students throughout the region. And with this project, we're also investing in BC's forestry sector by using mass timber construction. We announced a mass timber project at BCIT last fall that will support the construction of 464-bed, 12-story student housing project at BCIT Burnaby campus. Mass timber project, Mr. Speaker, help local communities and First Nations thrive. This project alone will create more than 500 direct and indirect jobs. Our BC government understands how partnership, innovation, and legacy projects contribute to a strong and resilient economy. Our track record is delivering on more on-campus student housing speaks for itself. Since 2018, our government has funded over 2,000 student beds, compared to the 130 beds over the 16 years under our BC Liberal government. We are well on our way to meeting our commitment to invest $450 million over 6 years to provide about 5,000 new beds at public post-secondary schools throughout the BC. Not only that, Mr. Speaker, we're also investing in student housing at University of British Columbia, Kelowna, with 220 beds, a student housing project at Skeena Commons. And it is $25 million project. So 18.7 million is provided by the provincial government, and 6.2 is by the UBCO. My daughter, who's also a student at UBCO, excitedly shares with me the amount of appreciation and excitement her fellow students have shared for this much needed investment. I'll talk a little bit about housing in Vernon. BC Housing is providing $5 million of capital funding through the Affordable Rental Housing Program to Vancouver Resource Society for the physically disabled 41-unit affordable rental project, Mr. Speaker, in Vernon at 27th Avenue. Besides that, BC Housing also providing the capital funding to new Aboriginal housing development throughout the provincial investments in affordable housing program. Vernon Native Housing Society is receiving $4.4 million for 38-unit project for Vernon and $2.4 million in deepening the affordability funding. The province is also providing capital funding of approximately $12.8 million for 2 permanent modular projects. The 2 projects will be operated by Turning Points Collaborative Society. A new permanent modular housing project will be located on the land owned by BC Housing at 27th Avenue and 35th Street, which will provide 52 supportive housing and units for the people transitioning out of the homelessness. And this is the completed project, and many people are already benefiting from that. A new permanent modular housing shelter with approximately 45 beds at 43rd Street to expand capacity of current homelessness shelter and transition housing development at Howard House. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, BC Housing is providing capital funding of Habitat for Humanity BC affiliate $150,000 to complete the building of 1 triplex, which will provide 3 family units. And BC Housing is also providing approximately 3.1 capital funding to the Canadian Mental Health Association for 29 unit projects at 25th Avenue. This project, Mr. Speaker, aims to provide affordable housing to low-income families and seniors. Under highway improvements, 97 and Stickle Road intersection in Vernon to improve safety, and single-lane southbound extension of 20th Street to the south end of the existing Stickle frontage road to accommodate the future expansion. Total $15 million provided by provincial government. An intersection improvement was completed in December 2018, and the extension of the 20th Street was completed in 2019. So there are investments are being made in infrastructure and to improve the highways as well. Mr. Speaker, BC Recovery benefited many families in many ways. When we go through hardship, every support helps. And I still receive many kind messages and cards from many constituents thanking and sharing their stories how BC Recovery benefit helped them. And tourism, farming, and small businesses are some of the major contributors in our economy in Vernon-Monashee. Budget 2021 focuses on robust economy recovery plan to continue to support small and medium-sized businesses. Steps taken by the government to support our businesses through property tax cuts, deferred tax payments, and BC Hydro rate relief. Small and medium business size recovery grant, and recently doubling the circuit breaker grant as well, are received and they're well received and much appreciated by businesses in my community. I have had the opportunity to meet many business owners like Lisa recently and her neighbor business owner who I shared, she discovered about the grant from me, and then I told her to encourage other business owners if they're not aware. So Lisa just recently excitedly told me that she received the grant and how grateful she is, and now she's able to buy new equipment for her business and pay the rent. These stories are really heartwarming, and it encourages us to do the job that we're all doing, no matter which side of the party we are on or the house we are on. I'm glad, Mr. Speaker, that Budget 2021 is guided by our core principles, including climate action, reconciliation with Indigenous people. Our government is making significant investments in our beautiful BC parks at the time when more British Columbians are safely enjoying our spectacular outdoors. We're boosting the parks budget by $83 million over 3 years, and this will help to build new campsites, to expand trails, create better parks. Our government also introduced the bold, first of its kind, $500 million strategic fund to invest in BC business to spark the innovation and create jobs. This will also move us forward on issues like climate change, diversity and inclusion, and reconciliation. BC-based businesses will have the capital to position us as a front runners in the post-secondary pandemic economy. Mr. Speaker, I'll just simplify some of the highlights of this budget for my constituents. There is $2 billion for more homes on the top of existing housing investment, the largest funding of mental health supports in BC's history, doubling the $10 a day childcare spaces, including 75 more universal childcare spaces, doubling of wage enhancement for early childhood educators, some of the largest increase to income support for the people with disabilities and seniors since 1987. Construction of new schools and across the province, over $800 million for small business supports, more high-speed internet across BC, especially in rural and Indigenous communities, and massive increase to healthcare and mental health care funding as I mentioned earlier. And free transit for kids 12 and under, Mr. Speaker. It'll save families $672 annually per child. And having 3 children of my own, I can appreciate this investment, how it's gonna make the positive impact and teach our children to use the public transit more. $290 million, Mr. Speaker, towards the reconciliation initiatives. And then there are many more investments to replace old infrastructure along adding tens and thousands of new jobs. So why wouldn't I be so proud of this budget? BC Fruit Growers Association is also glad to see the support for local farmers in 2021 provincial budget. The Provincial Agriculture Ministry will receive $4.4 million increase to its core budget, which now sits close to $100 million, Mr. Speaker. The BC Fruit Grower Association General Manager Glenn Lucas said that the investment is a step in the right direction. And I quote, Mr. Lucas said, I quote, "From an overall perspective, it is a good trend and trajectory for the agriculture budget," end quote. We're investing $258 million to help keep long-term care facilities safe, hiring up to 3,000 healthcare aides, and improving care for seniors living at home. We're also raising the senior supplement by $50, the first increase since 1987, which will also help 80,000 seniors with low income to make ends meet. And the part of our budget is that given the pandemic, Mr. Speaker, and unforeseen investments that we had to make to support individuals, families, and small and medium-sized businesses, healthcare, education, and other areas, the deficit was predicted to be more than $13 billion, but it is at $9.7 billion. We are predicted to move back towards the balanced budget within 5 to 7 years. The BC NDP presented 3 consecutive balanced budgets until February 2020 before the pandemic hit, and we have maintained a AAA credit rating. And this was achieved without siphoning money away from Crown corporations. I'm confident that we will come out of this pandemic even stronger. Given the pandemic, Mr. Speaker, the need to stimulate the economy, to keep people safe and healthy, to address the needs that were arised by this pandemic, we cannot penny pinch. For a government, people come first, and we know the importance of investing in people by adding and improving services. These investments always pay off in the long run when we have healthier and vibrant communities with equal opportunities for everyone. I would like to say thank you to all the people of Vernon-Monashee once again, and to British Columbians from bottom of my heart for doing your part and for making many sacrifices and adjustments in your lives to deal with the pandemic. COVID has brought the best and worst out of people. We have clearly seen this. However, it is reassuring to know that we have more good than the bad in this world, which makes our communities beautiful. I would like to thank every individual from my riding for showing your strength, resiliency, and care to help. We have hope on the horizon with vaccine, but COVID variants bring more challenges for us. Therefore, we still need to hold the line for a little bit longer, and together we can do this. Mr. Speaker, I conclude my remarks by proudly supporting the Budget 2021, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak. Thank you.